Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Camera, Lights, and More. We're going to talk about the Canon C50 tonight. This is episode number 1. My name is William Davis. I'm the owner of A.P.C Photography and WDC Media. I'd like to talk to you about the Canon C50, which I think is going to be Canon's either best camera they've had for the people who have wanted to get like an FX3 style camera but did not want to go to Sony, or it's going to be everyone who thought there was finally a Sony killer and realized that, oh, when I bought this, I didn't realize what I was buying, and it really isn't an FX3 killer. It is definitely the FX3 competitor, and I'll explain the reasons why that is so throughout the video. First and foremost, I want to give props to Canon. The C50 is an amazing camera. It will bring them into a new era, and I think everyone and anyone would say this with me, that it is a really well packed camera with a lot of features. So let's get right to it. Let's show off this Canon C50 directly from Canon's website. Here we go. So here's the Canon C50. We're looking at a $3,800 investment. And to me, I think it's worth it. Right off the bat, for Canon's world, this is the least crippled camera that they have ever put out in the video field that is not in the large formatted body cameras. So we've had the 5RC and several of the mirrorless cameras that seem to have missing features. This one kind of got past a lot of them. So first off, body wise, I mean, it looks like an FX3, similar button styles, similar everything. And there's been tons of reviews from everybody out there who is like a YouTube star. But I just use these cameras on a daily basis to make a living. So I'm someone who's out there working. And if you look at this, it's got all the normal slots. It's got a couple extra different spots to mount things. It has 2 slots for mounting in the bottom. Well, it's got one for mounting and then one for like locking it into place. And here's the area where I was really, really happy and then really not happy on this. The handle is marvelous in the fact that it has 2 XLR inputs. It has a really easy setup to figuring out what you're doing, fairly similar to the Sony. So you're going to be able to see your gain, auto, manual. Am I linking them together? All of that. Actually, no, take it back. There's no linking these together. Uh, am I turning the handle on and off? I like that. It's really cool. It even has like the rocker controls on top, similar to a camcorder. I really like that feature. But here's where it fails against the Sony. And this is where, like, if an FX30 person or an FX3 or someone who's had an opportunity to use one but wanted to go with Canon, and its killer would be this, is that it only has one audio set up there. So just 1 and 2. And then you would have to use the microphone input at the bottom for 3 and 4 channels. So that is kind of goofy. With the FX series, it's all in the handle for both of those inputs. You don't have to split them, even though the body still has the input on it. But I got to say one thing: this handles archway much better than the Sony's. Just killer. Overall, we'll talk about this in just a second. Just overall good looking camera for $3,800. If you get it on pre-order, you get it by November, you got a great camera to start off with. Let's look over some of the cool new features. It's got a 7K sensor. There's some cool things in a 7K sensor. It has open gate. For those of you who have been looking for a camera that can do open gate, I'm happy for you. I'm glad that they've got a camera for you that does open gate. It makes your life better because you finally got something in the Canon world. I'm a little envious of that in the Sony world. I don't use it very often for open gate, but it might be nice to have for reframing the same way I used to in photography. Having that flexibility would be nice. Now, here's a couple of modes that Canon has. It has the full frame mode, which is the 3x2, which is the open gate. It has normal full frame, which comes in 2 flavors, by the way. It comes in both DCI, which is true 4K, and it also comes in a regular 16:9, which are both available in Super 35 and full frame. I do not believe it's available in your Super 16. And for those who don't know what a Super 16 is, a Super 16 is actually the equivalent of a 1-inch sensor. So it's a 2.7 crop, which is kind of huge. Just be aware of that when you're using it. But, it's a great little way to go. It does support anamorphic lenses. It doesn't support the range that Sony does. Now, Sony on the body does support about the same number here, but if you use the app with Sony's actually going to have a larger array of anamorphic support. The dual base ISO, let's be frank, all of them got a dual base ISO. If it's a 6400, if it's a 3200, if it's a 1250, excuse all the noise, we're over here watching football at the game here. They're all going to be good. I like the 800. Just be aware that you're going to have to use VND, a good one, to make sure that your log is shot right. And then let's talk about the monster in the room. 7K, 60p internal raw recording, and 4K 120. Yes, I'm at the casino. You can record 7K 60p cinema raw light out of this camera. And that's the light. That's the LT. There's also the HQ and the standard. Now, I'm going to get out of this screen temporarily to get you a little more acquainted with what the raw is going to cost you in memory. So let's get out of this screen real quick and let's show you some information from Canon on this. Okay. We need to add in. Where'd you go? Spec sheet. Share. Woo! This is going to be a wake-up call. All right. Let's share this real quick. All right. So let's talk about what we're looking at here. So if we're talking Canon and we're talking their 7K, so let's start talking here. This is your 7K. Where is the light at? They're not showing the light. So 7K in the full frame is going to be in standard, raw standard again at 60 and 59, 60 and 50, and HQ. 1800 megabits per second. Now, let's translate this into megabytes since, megabits don't make no sense to everybody. Megabytes do. Megabits, we're looking at the 1800 divided by 8. So 225 megabytes per second. So that adds up real quick. If you take that and you times that by 60, you're 13.5 gigs per minute. Yeah. Times that again by an hour, you're almost a terabyte an hour. You're 810 gigs. And that right there is just at 29 frames per second. Now, most of you, and that's a standard, that's not an HQ, and most of you will be wanting that 60 frames per second raw. Now, when we get to that 60 seconds for raw, then numbers start getting gigantic on you. So you're looking at roughly 2,800 for a second divided by, well, we might as well be perfect. You're looking at, 357 megabytes per second if you are doing 60 frames per second with the raw, and this is unbelievable. It's not even an open gate. Now, open gate, I just told you the numbers for that. This is your 60p, and this isn't open gate, just so you know. This is just that raw at 60p. Times that by 60 for a minute, you're looking at 21 gigabytes per minute. Times that by 60 again, you're at 1.28 terabytes per hour. Now, frankly put, I'm used to shooting at that level. So I'm saying this to remind you of what you're getting into. So, why did I bring this up? Simply put, if you're looking at this as the camera you want to get, you need to know how much memory you're going to need. And it's not really that expensive, by the way. You're just going to, well, not on the camera expensive, but it's really going to be expensive actually on your hard drives away from the camera. You're going to find yourselves with 8 terabytes, 10 terabytes, 16 terabyte external drives that are going to cost you $200 to $2,000 depending on which drive you want to get. So let's look at this back at the other screen and start talking about one thing that's kind of important. And I'm jumping a little bit here, so please forgive me, but I need to jump here real quick on this little show because it's important to know something here. When you're doing 7K 60p Cinema Raw, that's not an open gate. The open gate's going to be 30 frames per second. I just told you the amount of data it's going to take per hour, which is just about 810 gigabytes, so just under a terabyte. But if you're using this 7K 60, which is going to be beautiful, you're looking at roughly 1.287 terabytes an hour. Now, I'm used to shooting at 600 megabytes per second, which is a 75 megabytes per second, and that comes out to about 270 gigabytes per hour. So I'm used to shooting at that. So it's not that unusual. And then when I go over to my Atomos recorder, I'm just used to shooting at roughly about 700, depending on which one I'm shooting at, the levels I'm shooting at, about 700 gigabytes per hour. So it's pretty doable. You get used to it, and it actually runs through the computer faster than the compressed stuff that we work with. But let's jump this a little bit, and then we'll go back up to that feature there. You have one CF Express card slot. Now, that's not a bad thing unless you're looking to make sure you have a backup of your RAW when you're shooting. Because if you don't have the backup of your RAW when you're shooting, then you're going to have an issue. But if you don't care, if that's not a big deal and you're comfortable with one card in your slot only, then you're fine. But in my case, I prefer to shoot backup to a backup. So it's important to me that it has that additional slots. And like I said, that's going to be your thing. Another thing that's important with that slot to know is memory cards aren't that dang expensive. And this is the reason why I was a little disappointed with the Canon there. They could have put 2 of the Type B slots. And if you go to Amazon and you look for, let's just say a 2 terabyte card. Yes, I said 2 terabyte. Yeah, welcome to the world that you're going to be in. Let's just say 2 terabyte. You're looking at $448 for the card. Now, that's really cheap. 2 terabytes of data on your camera that you don't have to take out pretty much ever. You're looking in that 400 to 500 range. If you do 1 terabyte, you're looking at like that $200 range. It's just amazing. And let's just say you went with a pro grade, it's 600. Angel Bird, you're 550. And these are for 2 terabytes. If I drop this down, and this is why I was like, Canon made a fail here. If I drop this down to 1 terabyte, which is really going to get you roughly about an hour of footage in that beautiful Canon codecs, you're around $200. So, I mean, it's not that expensive for the memory, because if I were to go and talk about this in the SD card, which he shows there, SD UHS 2 V90, which is going to be the type of cards you're going to need to at least keep up with a lot of the stuff that they're doing. If you were to get a 512 gigabyte card, You're $500. You're $449. You're $370. And these are all V90 cards. And that's not good enough. That's terrible. It should be better than this. And with the two card slots, for $400, you could have 2 terabytes and two cards at a terabyte apiece and take advantage and shoot for an hour in that amazing codec. So I think that's where Canon just failed. Now, that's not to say Canon's got a bad product, because they don't have a bad product. What I'm saying is having just that, and this rant has to do with the SD cards, is versus the Type B is a huge, huge problem to me. Now, when we start talking about these little crops, we'll get into that. So you got your frame rates. You can do 4K up to 120, which I'm used to doing in the Sonys already. I'm glad they're doing it here. There's minimal crops in these. There's no crops in the 2K, which is nice. This is the other part that I really, really like on this one, is that they've enabled a very unique recording feature for recording in a dual record format. You can record in the Type B card whatever you want, and then in a Type SD card, you can record for vertical format, and it's going to have markers. So either 1:1 or 9:16 or 9:17. And that's really cool. It is basically a 1080p delivery, which is fine. I mean, it's what you're going to be delivering anyway. And you will have to learn how to modify your shot as to what you want. And you won't be able to frame the way you like framing. And that's the one thing I do not like. You'll find yourself trying to frame for two different shots, but it might work out. And essentially, here's your vertical crops and everything on it. And then we back to the dual slots. Frankly put, great autofocus. And then you're going to have, of course, your rocker, your zoom. This is one thing I did talk about earlier. I like the record button being on top of the handle, which I wish I had that on the Sony, but they don't. I'll give Canon the plus there. They have the other thing that I wish Sony had on top of theirs, which is the smart shoe. I wish they had it up here, similar to the FX6, but they don't. Now, this is where the wins kind of end for Canon, because beyond the design of the handle, which we can easily replace with a small rig piece, there are some weaknesses in this handle that I wish they would have fixed. A couple of them are, and I don't think they have a picture of it, but the XLR inputs are just plain XLR inputs. They're not combo inputs, which would have been nice. There isn't an easy merger on the handle of channels 1 and 2, which would have been nice. Canon can do this with an update later, so I think it's going to be fine. I think the next iteration will have these updates. Also, the third and fourth channel of audio is not on the handle; it's on the body. Whereas the Sony, it's on the handle, which is a plus. So you see where they've got this shoe up here. So you can run the shotgun microphone and your other inputs, and you can put your lavaliers up here, and then do their 1/8 inputs directly in, which would have been like a win, like a super huge win. So I think that's an area where they could have done a little bit better. The rest of this is great. Now, one of the best things that I saw on this Canon was not the time code input, because frankly put, not important. Uh, Nowadays, with all the different ways you can sync up audio, all the ways you can sync up footage, all the ways that you can connect your phone to your camera and get the clocks perfectly aligned and get the clocks perfectly aligned on your microphones, like the Larks and all that record, or in my case, Rode Wireless Pros. You literally can go on the timeline and it will be perfectly matched. I mean, like maybe a frame off, which honestly you're not going to really notice. So you could have that. But the big thing that was a win was the headphone jack. that is by far the biggest win for the Canon. It's a metal surrounded hub. I love this, and this needs to come on every single camera out there. There are so many times people with headphones on listening and they've jerked or pulled that cable and damaged their camera and the ability to monitor. So I think this is absolutely a win-win. The Wi-Fi thing, I'm just glad they joined the world. Congratulations. You can stream, you can do SRT and all the other protocols. Wait. I don't know if they can do yeah, they can do SRT and all the rest of the protocols. Congratulations. You're there. If you've got a smartphone or can hook on a Wi-Fi and you're ready to go, bring a camera out, you can live stream. I love that. The Frame.io integration is just another one of those things that's been out there for a long time and other cameras. Thank you for showing up this way, Canon. It's just freaking awesome. This, on the other hand, is beautiful for a very specific set of lenses in the cinema line, and that's that Cook adapter. The ability to send and transmit information in is great. I do not know how well the metadata is yet on this camera. I hope it is as good as it is on the Sony, because the Sony's gives you a tremendous amount of metadata, and then can be transcoded over to MXF. It's very easy to transfer that footage over and have it deliverable to any professional situation. And having this is even better because it gives you all the information you need. Okay. This is where they lose. Okay. Canon. Learn from Sony. Just integrate the menus a better way. This is supposed to be your hybrid knock it out the park camera with a between 8 to 12 second transition point switching from photo to video, where Sony's at less than a second. And Sony is your competition. And yeah, just work on that. I like the idea of the dedicated button. Just work on it. So there's so much to say on this. Now let's get over to the tech specs. Now this is the part where people are just like, why do you care? It's not very important. Da 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 da. It's good to know the types of lenses this mount can handle. And I love the fact that it can handle PL mounts to RF with the mount on it, which means it's got a pretty robust mount. Yeah, that's stupidly important. On the camera mode, I don't care. It can't do flash control, so it's not going to matter to me. So if I'm using this as a hybrid and I was coming into an event and I needed to do both photography and videography, and I need flash photography, this can't do it. And that's just life. I prefer having the ability to have flash photography because it just gives you so much more when you're doing a hybrid situation. So it's not really. This is great if you got good lighting around you, or if you're using constant light. But if you're in a situation where you need something more powerful like a flash, this isn't the one to use for that. Canon log, as usual, 15, 16 stops. Super 35 actually has more stops, which doesn't surprise me at all. It's always been like that. Super 35 has generally had really good and better results. I know everyone believes in the full frame. The full frame gives you cleaner shadows, not better shadows. I like the fact that they're honest with their stops here. Beyond that, field of view is great. All of the little hookups here are great. The fact that it's got compression modes of 265 and A.P.C, pretty normal. This is your streaming rates and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. 2 channels, a bunch of your functionality. So this is your IP streaming, the Canon app. There's a couple other things like that are pretty cool. The mic sensitivity, normal. I mean, nothing is standing out to me to say it's better or worse than anything else. Input 1 and 2s are pretty much the same. All the HDMI outs and all the standard stuff there is pretty much the same. I do like this timecode jack. I'm loving the fact they went to super speed USB 3.2 Gen 2. This is actually a plus for those who are not pretty much aware of this, but you don't have to have a card reader. Just plug into the camera and transfer your data, and it's super fast. That will save you a lot. All the rest of this is just your basic information. So they're going to talk about your raw codexes. So you can do open gate in XF high efficiency, which is going to work really good. Just know that it's not a true interest, so you're not getting all the data. You can also use the raw, or you can use the high efficiency or regular, your choice. The super is they're all the same. They get the options on that. So Super 16 does have limitations. 2K is where it's going to be at. You're going to be at 4K and 5K roughly with the Super 35. Canon log, I mean, what can I say? 2 and 3 are pretty much the same in my opinion. People can argue with me and say there's more color in one or the other. When you're in RAW, just switch. It's basically a color shift. So it's the same thing happens with Sony and S-Log 3. So there's Gamut 3 and there's Gamut Cine 3. So Gamut Cine 3 leans more towards the reds, and Gamut 3 leans more towards the green. They get rid of the S-Log 2, which was a tighter spectrum. But when you're really looking at this, it's objectively how much it's leaning more, and then what you're bringing back into the Rec 709. So that's what's going to matter the most. Here's all your card formats. This is for all the junkies out there. This is my favorite part of all with Canon. They brought the slow and fast motion into a handheld camera that they're calling a cinema camera. I love this. I love this. I love this. The Essence Slow feature is something I've been using with Sony for a long time, and it's just I'm glad they did this. It's gonna make everything great. Now, Cinema Raw Lite and all this other stuff, they're gonna talk about all the things you can do with it. And here's your bit rates, just so you know. If you don't know what all intra is, all intra is a true frames per second versus long op, which is not true frames per second. So long op takes one frame and kind of adjusts the bits and pieces of it over 7 or 8 frames at a time, then takes another frame and does the same thing again. All intra is one frame, one frame, one frame, one frame, one frame. That's why the megabits are so much higher. So it's one of those things that's really nice that you can see how this looks, but you know, all intra is better in my book for certain things, and long op is better for others. If you're just doing quick delivery, going to YouTube, this camera's kind of overkill. So is the Sony FX30 and the FX3, but it gets the job done, and it's really nice. If you're looking to do something that's going to be on a bigger screen, I recommend the all intra if you got an opportunity to use it. All right, so now that we've kind of racked our brains around this for the last 30 minutes, I want to say thank you for watching. I'm cutting it off here just because it's 30 minutes of yakking. I love these cameras. I love all this stuff. This is what I do for a living. Hell, I'm sitting in a casino with a Rode Wireless Pro, a Sennheiser $150 microphone, just so I can use my headphones like this and have a conversation and block out most of the sound. And sometimes I even use this for public address if it's within like 10 feet of the mixer. I'm fine, and the client can use this as an overhead conversation piece. They work really good, and they're just awesome. I'm sitting here doing this and having fun. If you like someone that's in the industry that will talk to you about what it is to use real cameras, real stuff, lights, all the rest of it, talk about techniques, I'm here for you. I'm going to have ideas and thoughts on all of this. If this is something you really like, subscribe, follow. I'm way too late in this, so anyone who's made it this far is going to subscribe and follow. Next time I'll put subscribe and follow up front. I'm going to be doing a short video right after this one. We're going to be talking about what I expect Sony to eventually do. but I don't think they're going to do it type thing. Or I might do one on the XR, the path that Nikon's taken to integrate themselves into Sony shooters. I think that's the route I'm going to go with this. So that's my next video. It's coming up next. I'm going to be streaming it here probably in the next 10 minutes. And I'm doing this all off the top of my head because, well, I do this for a living. So I don't need a stupid, oh, let me get a teleprompter and talk about this because I've looked at this and it says da, 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 da. I do this for a living. So I know these cameras. I know how they work. And I'm out on a gig or doing a live stream 2 to 5 times a week. So not doing my fun stuff, but literally getting paid to do this. I'm here to help you become better at it and understand what's going on in the industry. And also watch a good football game here at the casino and try not to drink any coffee at, 11 o'clock at night. Gotta go. Thank you. Bye-bye.